Hello there guys, welcome back to another video. I'm going to quickly start this video off with what I wanted to happen this patch and what happened and discussing where I think they went wrong or what I think they did right. So first off, there's a few things that I wanted changing. I've been very vocal about the map being quite stale apart from objective gameplay. With the removal of scorpions and the removal of milking and cups and stuff and the scepter, the actual mini objectives around the game have been removed, which means fighting's a lot more randomized, which means the people that are removed around the map faster determine when you fight, which is why junglers are so strong. Having objectives means that supports. So think about this, right? Supports farm at 330 gold per minute, right? Junglers farm at 450, let's say. So whenever there's a standstill and nothing's happening, junglers are effectively losing more gold per minute than supports are because they gain more than we do. So objectives force people to fight and not to farm, which hurts roles that just want to roam and do whatever they want and not be forced to fight. Objectives are just a good thing for a lot of games, and I think the pyro change that we will talk about later, a good change, a good move by Hi-Rez. I wanted that one. That was a really important thing for me, especially for competitive. Next up was Bluestone. Bluestone's been really weird. So before, the way that Smite works is that junglers have needed jungler starters like mannequins, bombers, and Eye of the Jungle to increase their damage and increase the sustain in the jungle, because they take damage and it takes a while to clear the camps. This year, with the starts where there's no jungle up, where all the jungle's done in minute 1, and they get that's it. There's one camp left up after the starts. The problem with it is that they don't need the sustain because there's no jungle they're fighting, and they're just one-shotting camps anyway. A Bluestone is OP because of it, because they don't need to go sustain. So they just go an OP relic that's good on Assassin's late game, an OP starter that's good on Assassin's late game, and this also increases the clear anyway. So it just doesn't have the sustain on it, but they don't need it because they one-shot the camps. I was hoping Bluestone would get a tone down in the late game. They did nerf it, to be fair, on Fire Giants and stuff and Titan, which I understand, and I think it was a good choice. But I wish you got a bit of a reduction in the late game as well. I don't know. I guess Hunters weren't really abusing it, but there has to be some sort of thing where they can buff it early for solo and ADC, but nerf it late game. Especially given how strong Crusher and Heartseeker are. It's not like physical hunters like Aura would struggle, or Chiron. They just need to nerf the aspect of it for junglers, or, for example, change jungle. You know, change the way that the camps work. Why are they so squishy? Why are people not taking more damage? It means that if you watch a lot of junglers now, a lot of the good junglers, they're clearing camps for 20, 30 seconds, and then they're roaming for a minute, ganking whatever lane they want. It's very silly in my opinion. These two kind of changes are in tandem. Next up, let's talk about the supports and solos. Cloak, broken. It didn't always get online, but just the base procs it was giving, upwards of 55. Now not including the 30 plus Rot Aura. Strongest item in the game when you got it stacked. So at the top level, when you got it stacked, broken. And when you didn't get it stacked, it was still a decent item because it gives you health, it gives you CDR, it gives you an aura. So I'm glad they changed it. I'm glad they're going towards that. It was a good idea. And the mitigation change. Now, I'm not sure a lot of you players will have seen it. It started in top ranks. It's probably falling through. What usually happens in Smite when I was Platinum 5-6 years ago, Diamond 5 years ago, is the top players would figure something out. For example, the Dirty Bubble build back on Thanatos, and it would slowly filter its way through because someone loses to it and starts copying it. But you have to lose to a better player because you have to lose to a better player. So it might start coming in, but Sigil was very, very broken. Especially with Cloak, only Hunter's Guard and Berserkers, and you weren't taking any damage. It was being built in jungle and solo. Even ADC, there's a clip from Netroro's Twitter. There's a lot of shit that was happening with this that I was worried was taking over the game. Now they have addressed it swiftly, which is good. Before it got out of hand, they nerfed Cloak, which I think was important. And Cloak was a big part of this, in my opinion. So they have looked at this. It's good. And the only final thing to talk about is Tablet. Now Tablet was shit. That was shit. It was 0.008% of your maximum mana. And they doubled it, almost, to 0.014% of your maximum mana. That's per stack, and it's times 50. So it's 7% of your maximum mana late game. Now, the average major late game with Book of Thoth, which is core, because the item's broken, and has been for the last 4 or 5 months, maybe even 6 months, Book of Thoth gives you 1,050 mana, or 1,000 mana or something. So off of Book of Thoth alone, and Tablet, which is 300 mana, so 1,300 mana, This item is proccing for basically 100 damage, just off 2 items, not including base mana pool, which is high for mages, not including Reaver, which is also meta. So they've just buffed it by double, out of nowhere. It's true damage, it has no DR. The only bad thing about this item is it takes ages to stack, but that's because it's a proc on hit, right? It stacks on hit, so of course it's going to be hard to stack. But this item is a joke. There's just too much true damage in Smite. The mitigation build, you know why it was strong, Hi-Rez? Was because we have to build something to be tanky. Because right now, if I'm playing against a Tablet Reaver Mage late game, I am not tanky. They just simply poke me for 600 damage per ability, and they have the longest range in the game. So, I don't know. I was pretty unhappy with Tablet getting double just buffed. It's just way too broken. Anyone that say it's not OP is fucking lying. Mage items are stupid right now. But anyway, let's talk about what they actually changed and go through it. So we spoke earlier about a cloak. So they did actually reduce they made cloak less broken late game by removing 15 of each prot, so 30 prots. That's a lot of prots. It also affects its passive, right? Because its passive works off total prots. So it's going to reduce the mitigation in some games too. They also decrease the internal cooldown, making it more likely to stack, but making it worse at the high end. Perfect change by Hi-Rez. Really good idea so far. The item still might be strong, but I think it's going to help it balance it out a little bit. So it's a really good change. They nerfed the mitigation build already. I think the healing thing wasn't needed. Giving healing to late game per ability doesn't really make sense. And they nerfed the mitigation by 5%, which is not massive, but the healing is important too. This is big. Good change by Hi-Rez again. And Berserkers, this item is really bad. I don't know, this item feels terrible to build. If you go to your Soliners and ask how does Berserkers feel, I guarantee they'll say it feels terrible. You used to be able to rush the item, but with the power being removed on it, you can't really rush it anymore. So, not a big fan of this change. I think nerfing only Hunter's Guard was probably better, and then nerfing mage items, but whatever. They nerfed Crusher and Heartseeker, which are the 2 proc items on junglers. They both give 10% penetration. They're both core in every jungler build. Also in some Hunter builds as well. Now, good changes. Crusher was way too expensive, but also way too good for making it more balanced. And then Heartseeker, I don't mind dealing damage to tanks because junglers late game don't have the range that mages and hunters have, so they need to get close to support. If they're close to support, they should be hitting us hard. So I don't mind them reducing the low end damage on it, because it makes it a little bit worse than the 1v1. It means junglers that build these items with percentage penetration don't do as much damage to squishies as they do. They should have to build for it. So good changes. Kin size, I don't know. I am just gobsmacked. Hunters were not weak at all. When they're nerfing the mitigation build, and Berserkers, and Cloak, and Contagion, and Binding, and Sigil, you know, I don't understand why they're also buffing Hunters. It's like they're swinging the pendulum. It really doesn't make sense to me. Its item was already core. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to do this. They're trying to make Hunters have Kins as a core item, and they'll do damage no matter what else they build. So let's say like, oh, someone's like, oh, the Hunter build's boring. Oh, let's build Kins and then build 5 fun items. The problem is that people do these buddy maths builds that have got the highest DPS. It will always include crit because crit's broken and spectral's shit. So that people will build Kins, 2 crit items, and they'll do damage no matter what. So I don't like this. This is just a silly change. I don't know. It's just. It's just bullshit. Just people are complaining for no reason. The tank and the items that were OP have literally been gutted. Fucking terrible change. Fine change. Probably above the Mercury, that's the only thing. Mercury already quite strong, so it's whatever. And then Magic Crimes Pendant was already quite weak. It's fine. Brawlers, good change as well. It was way too expensive. The passive doesn't really matter too much. Nobody really cares about the passive. It's a win more passive. It drops when you get an assist or a kill. So very rare to actually happen than affect a fight. This made Cloak feel nice to build. Early game, 1 more pot in dual lane. This item, so these changes were really good by Hi-Rez. Maybe not the Phalanx. I can't speak on this one because I don't play solo. It doesn't affect me. But these 3 right here. This item is a unique item. It's very obvious from the get-go this year. They were trying to push support to build more than just Thieves. So they've got Cloak, you've got Renewal, Binding, you've got like a Sov Rush, like a physical, or a magical, like a Heartward. Now, Cannoneers is a bit different because it doesn't give you the high stats, but it does give a lot of gold to your team. It might see more application in comp. It'll be tested a lot. 150 gold off is a lot, and the reason why is that 150 gold is, let's say, 30 seconds of farming. that means you can be somewhere 30 seconds faster than the enemy support if they're going for an item like Thieves or something, or a Cloak. So, good change. Interesting. We'll see how it plays. I mean, it could be fun to build and just give people gold. Next up is Dawnbringer. Dawnbringer was kind of terrible. They removed all the power and prot items. They just separated them. This item gives power, but it gives a defensive percentage movement increase and percentage protection increase, I think, off your ultimate cast. Now, this is like a 4th or 5th item. I can see it being built on Milan or something, but 200 gold's a good change. I mean, that is like a... I don't know, it's weird. It just feels a lot cheap. I mean, it's 200 gold cheap, but it feels like it's actually buildable now. An Absolution, a good item. It's a good feeling item for supports and solos without being oppressive, and I'm glad they buffed it. Yeah, good change. I won't speak on this. I don't know too much. I haven't seen it. I won't speak my mind in it. Ask a solo laner. Alquang, good change. They should have nerfed the base damage by 10 or something as well for solo lane. This change made no sense. Just nerf Hebo 1 if you're going to nerf him. The 3 means nothing. Discordia, this god's been shit for ages. Good changes. She's not an oppressive god. This is probably the biggest change to her. Her 3 gives her more cooldowns on a 1 and a 2, which means so reducing the cooldown on the 3 reduces the cooldown on the 1 and the 2 effectively. It's a good change though. It's going to make her Fire Giant DPS a lot better though. Geb, I mean, it's a tiny buff, but we'll take it. I think Geb needs a rework, honestly, if they're going to make him. Then again, he's just a stable character in Smite. Take that back. Just a good change. His 2 did feel like a long cooldown. Especially given that his 1's mobility, having his only damaging ability on a 50 seconds cooldown, felt pretty terrible. Tsukiyomi, sure, whatever. This is a massive change in a 1v1, 20% scaling. If the jungler has 300 power, that's 60 damage extra on the ult. It actually is quite a lot, but we'll see. Jingwei buff, boring. Get a grip. This god was fine. Chernobog, making him feel a little bit nicer. Good change on Bog, I think, in my opinion. It's a weird patch. I'd rate it like a 4 out of 10. No, it's a 5 out of 10. They also changed Pyromancer timer as well, like we spoke about earlier. So they changed Pyromancer timer to 7 minutes now. So gold, 5 minutes. Pyromancer, 7 minutes. Now the problem is, what happens after that? I guess it's towers and stuff, right? But before there'd be a lot more things. There'd be Scorps at 5, Cups at 6, Pyro at 10. Now it's going back towards the old thing, but Pyro early is very interesting. A 7-minute Pyro is very peculiar. We'll see Pyro typically the easier objective to do, Gold having the 4-hit burst, Pyro only having the CCable AoE damage increase. So we'll see, that's going to be interesting. But again, this patch, as you just discussed so far, missing these 3 things for me. Really, really missed the nail here. Now, they're probably trying to collect evidence on this, which I understand, but Bluestone is egregious. It's being built every bloody game. I'm sick of it. Junglers are way too broken. In my opinion, these 3 things need to happen next, given that they just nerfed the tank's best go-to items. But yeah, it's not a terrible patch. I just think they just need to look at these next area when they do another patch. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Yeah, let me know what you think about the patch. Maybe Hunters have something to say, but I personally feel like you guys are going to be completely busted. I'm looking forward to playing Armor Support with Kinsize doing another 1% damage late game, which will be lovely to play with 2.5% attack speed, which you now get because Kins has more attack speed. Anyway, I'll stop being salty now. I'll see you guys in the next one, and thanks for watching.